Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. A very good day to honorable panels. Okay, I would like to say thank you for giving me a chance to present in front of you. Before I start my presentation, let me introduce myself first. My name is Muhammad Ali Imran bin Hamiduddin from NSR 2 Form 1 M1. Today, I will share with you my research on the title of the relationship between leisure activity and leisure satisfaction among UiTM Seremban 3 students. Okay, let's start. Before we go further, there are two variables that are measured, which are independent variables and dependent variables. My independent variable is leisure activity. Leisure activities are the pleasurable voluntary selected activities that people engage in their leisure time, according to Ali Reza Amiri 2020. While my dependent variable is leisure satisfaction. Leisure satisfaction is defined as an individual sense of happiness or dissatisfaction in key aspect of life, according to Martin Argen 2018. Leisure satisfaction is related to one of the important components of well-being. Regarding the well-being related factors, the subject of health situation, socio-economic status, and recreational activity participation are non-indicators of life satisfaction, according to Martin Argen 2018. Next, the statement of the problem. Statement of the problem is used in research work as a claim that outlines the problem addressed by a study. As we know, university is the best place to further our study. So, why not if we strike a healthy balance between academics and free time? According to Putran 2016, as cited in Noshela Shakila 2020, tertiary education was shown to be quite stressful for students. When stress is seen negatively or becomes severe, it may have an adverse effect on one's health as well as academic achievement. Furthermore, if the stress is extended and ignored, it can lead to feeling of helplessness and despair, jeopardizing the academic prospect of certain students. In addition, with the advancement of technology, students spend less time with themselves and their surroundings, causing them to become detached from themselves and the community in which they live, according to Elkinchi and Sawyer 2017. So we move on to research objective. Research objective is describe what we expect to achieve by a project. So my research objective is first, to determine the level of leisure activity among UiTM Seremban 3 students. Second, to identify the level of leisure satisfaction among UiTM Seremban 3 students. And lastly, to investigate the relationship between leisure activities and leisure satisfaction among UiTM Seremban 3 students. In this literature review, leisure activities are at the level of self-actualization within the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, according to Yunchu 2003. Individuals who reach the stage of self-actualization meet all their needs and attain the level of life satisfaction, according to Chetin Kanat 2000. Sustaining a healthy mind is of utmost important to the students since they are prone to experience undue extreme amount of stress, which can lead to adverse consequences on academic performance, achievement, and enhanced productivity, according to Noshela Shakila 2020. According to Martin Argen 2018, found a favorable connection between leisure engagement and both satisfaction and well-being in a study of college students. Furthermore, the pleasure derived from leisure activities contribute to one's overall happiness. People are more likely to be happy if they are in good health. This is because the chance of experiencing life pleasure are at their highest. Happiness is generally seen as the leisure satisfaction level and a summary of a person's life overall, as it determines the quality of a person's life. Previous research has demonstrated that the human happiness can be positively influenced by satisfaction derived from living, according to Martin Argen 2018. Okay, now we go for conceptual framework. Okay, conceptual framework for my study, which is perceived leisure activity and leisure satisfaction toward UiTM Seremban 3 student. As you can see, the leisure activity is independent variable and leisure satisfaction is dependent variable. They are consist of 4 dimensions of leisure activity, which are active leisure, passive leisure, social leisure, work-related activity. So, passive leisure refer to activities that are relaxing, that does not require much physical movement or effort, and mostly is the time spent at home. The activity are usually sedentary and require less cognitive function and do little to improve physical health. For active leisure, it's referred to activities that involve the vigorous action of physical or mental energy. For social leisure, it's referred to activities that involve interaction with other people. It is often said to have positive effect on one's personal being and help to improve relationship within individuals, friends, and families. And lastly, work-related activities are those activities associated with physical activities that you may spend time working as part of their job to generate income, or merely activity that are not part of their job but done as a duty or under informal arrangement. For leisure satisfaction, there are 6 domains, which are psychological aspect, educational aspect, social aspect, relaxation aspect, psychological aspect, and aesthetic aspects. Let's move on to research design. The research design for this study is non-experimental research using a quantitative design. This design is chosen because the research study involves a process of analysis and data collection using random survey. The researcher used this descriptive design and correlational design because the purpose of the study is quantitative in nature. For correlational design, is used for aligning with the research objective, which is to investigate the relationship between leisure activity and leisure satisfaction toward UiTM Seremban 3 students. Then we continue to sampling. For target population is student in University Technology Mara Campus Seremban. The inclusion of Faculty of Sports Science and Recreation, Faculty of Science, Computer and Mathematics, and Faculty of Administrative Science and Policy Studies. For exclusion, staff of UiTM Campus Seremban. Then, the number of sample. The total number of students according to UiTM Seremban official website, which is 6,000 students. According to Craig Morgan 1970, the estimate sample need to be taken on the student is 361. But then 20% samples need to be added to avoid unwritten rate. So the total of sample will be taken is 433 students. In sampling technique, the researcher used probability and simple random technique. This technique will be used because this method mainly used in quantitative research, which is relate to this study objective, meaning that whoever student that available in UiTM Seremban 3 will have the chance to be a respondent. The researcher will distribute the questionnaire using the Google form, via WhatsApp, Telegram, or any related social media. They also ask the permission of the authority to blast in the UiTM Seremban 3 community group. Okay, next is instrumentation. There are consists of 3 sections in the questionnaire. First section A, which is demographic. They have 5 items, which are email, age, gender, education level, and faculty. In this study, there are 2 types of variables that researcher will measure, which are leisure activity and leisure satisfaction, that consists in section B and C. In order to measure the leisure activity, we adopt and adapt the questionnaire from adolescent leisure time use inventory, according to Gordon and Caltabiano 2015, that represent 4 dimensions of leisure activity, which are active leisure, passive leisure, social leisure, and work-related activity. For section C, by using leisure satisfaction measurement, according to Jacob G. Bird and Monier G. Rage, it consists of 6 domains. First, psychological aspect, educational aspect, social aspect, relaxation aspect, psychological aspect, and aesthetic aspect. Okay, now the Cronbach alpha value for adolescent leisure time use inventory and leisure satisfaction measurement by Jacob G. Bird and Monier. The data of the pilot study was analyzed using statistical package for social science (SPSS), This test was carried out certified that the questionnaire was qualified for the actual research. The 28 items were tested for their reliability value. Based on the result of Chromebus Alpha, the overall reliability was reported above 0.9 respectively. According to Conting 2009, Chromebus Alpha value above 0.7 was good and acceptable to use. Okay, now the data collection procedure. The data collection procedure is the process of acquiring and gathering data following the research purpose. So, before beginning their research, the researcher must first obtain the ethics permission. As a result, the researcher will meet with the appropriate authorities and present the proposed study. If the research meet the criteria, the researcher can obtain the ethics form to receive ethics approval for academic purpose. It is significant since the form serves as proof as well as official permission from the authority to perform the study. Okay, now the data analysis. For the first, the data analysis is descriptive statistic because based on the research objective, which is to determine the level of leisure activity among UiTM Seremban 3 students. Next, it same goes to the first research objective, which is descriptive statistic. And lastly, by using Pearson correlation to investigate the relationship between leisure activities and leisure satisfaction among UiTM Seremban 3 students. Okay, now let's move on to result and finding. So, my RO1 is to determine the level of leisure activity among UiTM Seremban 3 students. So, the descriptive statistic including means and standard deviation of all variables are presented in the table. From all the activity, passive leisure reported the mean is 4.11 and the standard deviation is 0.9. Next, for active leisure, the mean is 3.98 and the standard deviation is 1.03. For work-related activity, the mean is 3.84 and the standard deviation is 1.002. And lastly, for social leisure, the mean is 3.68 and the standard deviation is 1.046. Now, let's move on to the second research objective. So, the table shows the descriptive statistic of level in leisure satisfaction among UiTM Seremban 3 students. The psychology aspect reported the mean is 4.35 and the standard deviation is 0.527. Besides, the educational aspect with mean is 4.3 and the standard deviation is 0.546. For social aspect with mean 4.18 and the standard deviation is 0.67. For relaxation aspect with mean 4.41 and the standard deviation is 0.532. The psychology aspect with mean 4.25 and the standard deviation is 0.608. And lastly, aesthetic aspect with mean is 4.26 and the standard deviation 0.576. Okay, for RO3 is to investigate relationship between leisure activity and leisure satisfaction among UiTM Seremban 3 students. So the result indicated that leisure activity was related to leisure satisfaction, which showing that is significant and has a relationship. As the p-value reported was significant, the researcher can conclude that there is a relationship between leisure activity and the leisure satisfaction. The correlation coefficient interpretation was 0.445. So the researcher can conclude that there was strong positive relationship. Okay, next we go for discussion. For RO1, from all the activity above, it showed that the passive leisure with mean 4.11 and the standard deviation is 0.909 turned out to be the one activity that most involvement among UiTM Seremban 3 students. Meanwhile, the activity that least involvement is social leisure that show the lowest value of mean is 3.68 and standard deviation 1.046. Therefore, the previous study showed the opposite result from this study according to Cooley Shin 2013. Okay, next research objective 2. From the table, it shows relaxation aspect has the highest mean, which is 4.41, while the domain with the lowest mean is social aspect, with the mean is 4.18. However, the study result also opposite with the previous study according to Jung Yoon Yang 2020. Okay, for research objective 3, the researcher can conclude that there was a strong positive relationship. It indicated a strong relationship between the leisure activity and leisure satisfaction. According to Guilford rule of thumb, percent correlation was 0.445. We can conclude that there was moderate relationship.